Good morning, folks. Nice to see you. Nice to practice Dhatu Sambhajana, mindfulness, and full self-awareness with me this morning. Koda and Vintali asked me to lead the talk today. So it's great to be back here with old friends, doing this out, practicing together, talking together. So what I'd like to talk about this morning is there are two basic parts to the mind, and sort of two basic levels of Buddhist practice. And it's really important to understand that and be clear about it. So, in terms of the mind, there's the part of the mind that we can call the doing mind, which is what thinks and perceives and gets angry and fearful and sad and has attachments and everything. That's Michael, basically, right? And then there's the part of the mind that whose function is simply to know, and just to feel. One level of Buddhist practice is what probably what brings most people in the beginning to Buddhist practice, but unfortunately, where probably most people stay, is trying to make that doing mind better, trying to make it calmer, trying to make it more peaceful, trying to not to be angry, or not to be sad and overcome by grief. And so, many people practice concentration practice to calm that doing mind, or we talk about seeing thought and seeing how thought is what is making us angry, coming out of the thought. There's nothing wrong with that kind of practice. Nothing wrong with making Michael a little calmer and easier to live with, maybe. But no matter how good you get at that, and no matter how wonderful your life happens to be, how peaceful you are, how things are unfolding, in such a pleasant way or whatever, this doing mind, this Michael, is always going to be a ball of suffering. There's no way around it. And Koda spoke about this a bit last week at the one day retreat in the afternoon. There's pointing out that there's two levels of dukkha. One is the reactivity, that we think of as normally, think of as dukkha, getting angry, getting worked up, getting sad, getting anxious. We can use, these Buddhist techniques to try to alleviate that. But no matter how good we get at that, there's this existential dukkha that's associated with the fact that this body has to move every single moment. It can never stand still. This mind has to move every single moment. We can't control it. We can't say, "Oh, I like this, my life right now, I'm going to stay here." You can't. The body keeps moving, keeps getting old, keeps, even if it's not painful, even if it's not becoming painful, it's still unable to be still. And the mind is unable to be still. And that is this that is the type of sort of profound and sort of existential dukkha that is associated just with reality, of this life that we're living. And so, the quandary is that well, it's good to try to soothe Michael and have him be less angry and less anxious and everything. As long as you're engaged with that, you're trying to fix Michael, you're never going to solve that deeper problem. Because the deeper problem gets solved by addressing that knowing part of the mind, which is underdeveloped. And the doing mind gets all our attention, all our life, all our schooling, all our reinforcement from parents and everything else is encouraging that development of that doing mind. Get better and better at thinking, get better and better at solving problems, get more and more responsible. This piece, everybody has those two pieces. Obviously, everybody has a doing mind, and everybody has a part of the mind that is able to simply know. But this part was just at its sort of minimal sort of development level. So that you have that faculty, but it's not developed. And so that knowing piece just gets kind of sucked into the other piece and engulfed by it and identifies with it. And the solution, to the steeper dukkha, the existential dukkha, lies in this piece. The piece that it simply feels. It simply feels the body moving. It feels the mind thinking. It feels Michael, growing old, getting sick, getting angry, dying. There's something that feels that. And that piece is where your refuge is. Michael can never be a refuge. Michael doesn't know what's going. Michael's going to die. Grow old, get sick, die. This other piece is where your refuge is. And so the deeper level of Buddhist practice is to grow that piece. There's a famous Zen koan that asks the practitioner, Master says, show me your original face before your mother and father were born. And that's what that piece is, right? It's before there was Michael, before there was Andy, before there was Linda. There's that piece that simply knows, it simply feels Linda happening or Michael happening. What I like about this practice is that rather than giving you a riddle and having you go off and start thinking about it, we're pointing it out here, and in a way that hopefully encourages you to not just believe you have this piece, but to kind of develop it so that it shows itself to you very clearly. And it's the path of that is very simple. It's about exercising that part of the mind that simply feels. So, in the body, that as the body's moving, there's the instruction is simply to feel the body moving, no more. This knowing piece doesn't concentrate on it, doesn't focus on things, doesn't name things or label things. It's very kind of primal. It's before your mother and father were born, so to speak. It's that that sacred part of the mind. And it, we start by encouraging it just to feel the body. Ajahn Nos, the teacher that was visited us here in Thailand in January, he's the example of this kind of a very simple movement, opening and closing the hand. Everybody can feel the hand opening and closing when they do that. And you don't have to focus on it. You don't have to try hard. You don't have to concentrate. You don't have to make the opening and closing perfect. You can just feel the hand opening and closing. And I can feel the opening and closing even as I talk to you. So it's a very sort of simple, even primal sort of quality or faculty of mind that we're developing when we do this. And as it gets a bit stronger, so that no longer just keeps identifying itself with the doing mind, it discovers that it can also feel that doing mind. It can feel, just as it can feel the movement the hand is making, it can feel the mind as it moves, as it creates a thought. And it doesn't, and the key is not to try to fix it. Not trying to fix the mind, not trying to make it calm, not trying to label anything, just knowing the feeling that is happening. When the mind gets angry, it doesn't happen just out of the blue, right? The mind locks itself into anger. And so, just as that feeling part of the mind, it feels the body walking across the floor, that feeling part of the mind can feel the doing part walking itself into anger. I can feel the thought, oh, what's this guy doing, how dare he, and then there's a whole cascade of stuff, right? And so it's, as long as we're trying to control it, that's the paradox. We want it to be calmer, we want it to be less angry. Everybody has this aspiration. That's why almost everybody comes to practice. But as long as you keep just doing that, trying to fix it, you can never come to your true shelter, which lies in the other part of the mind. So if you're going to do some of those techniques to let go of anger, to be calmer, do it, but then drop it, and don't neglect this most important part, which is the part that simply knows, the part that feels Michael moving from the that's what you can live with. And you can see where your shelter is at, when that piece becomes more in balance with the rest of the mind. It actually becomes the dominant piece, and the doing mind still can think and take care of your family and be happy and have emotions and everything else, but the dukkha can drop away, right? And not just the anger and the sadness and the anxiety, but also the existential dukkha. Because we see that many people probably read Tadi's book, that he wrote with Lompo Tien, the alcohol Lompo Tien, right? They decided to name it One That Feels. I asked him about this a couple of weeks ago, it's not just for English. They intentionally chose that wording to One That Feels. This is who we're talking to. That it's not personal. It's before Michael, or before Linda, or before Andy. It's that's what liberates itself, and that's where the shelter is. And Um, and it's not hard. So it's not hard to have glimpses of it, to see it. All you gotta do is use it. An analogy that comes to my mind is, when I had rotator cuff surgery, I had to have my arm in a cast that was fine for a couple of months, and it just withers down to nothing, and it becomes completely useless. Yeah. But the arm is still there, doesn't disappear. Nobody's arm disappears when they get rotator cuff surgery. And everybody's arm becomes useful again when you start using it. When you go to PT, you start moving it around and stretching it and begin to use it again. So everybody can do it. There's no doubt, And it's just like everybody can go to PT and learn to use their arm again. So it's just a matter of not getting kind of stuck. The doing mind wants to keep control, not getting just, when it's doing something like that, just feel it doing that. But, just come back to that pure, simple practice, when you're doing meditation of just knowing, knowing that feeling the body move, feeling the mind, each step the mind takes. It's people will sometimes doubt this practice they say, well, where's the samadhi? And they associate samadhi or concentration with one point of focus on something. But this is a much more subtle, much deeper samadhi. When that knowing piece becomes stronger and you can kind of be with it. There's a different kind of samadhi that happens, and it's more profound. It's more subtle. It's more profound. So I'm just encouraging you to please, it's fine to soothe the mind. Do it when you need. Sometimes we need to do it. Sometimes we need first aid, right? That's like first aid. First aid is important, and you got to apply the first aid, but then don't neglect the heart of the matter, which is that peace, that transcendence. So what's to happen when people have doubts or questions or thoughts about that? Could people understand what I'm saying?
What I take from what you say, two things struck me. One is that the doing part of the mind is also involved in our emotions as anger and anxiety and all that. I mean, usually when we say feel, one who feels, our direct experience, we don't think that our doing takes a role in that. And the other observation, I think we already know that the knowing is already there, but we're just not, in this awareness, we're not open to it. But so the wisdom is already there, and the awareness is already there, and the Buddha is already there, seeing or feeling just the way it is. So that's right.
Yeah, I mean, it already has that feeling part of the mind, but it's not strong enough. So it's not already strong enough, and the wisdom's not already there because that's not strong enough to bring the wisdom with it.
It's not our wisdom, it's the wisdom of just what is, such as it is. And so it already is there.
Okay.
But we may be blind to it, or we may not have the strength to reach for it or to see it.
Well, the Dharma is already there. The understanding of it isn't there yet for the practice. Thank you.
You say the mind is doing, that's confusing, because I associate the wound feeling with the body. Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, the mind thinks.
Yeah, there's a constant stream.
That's doing something, what?
Yeah, there's one that the mind is a constant stream going on.
Yeah, of activity. Right? There's a constant stream of activity happening. So, yeah, I mean, if that, there's nothing, I mean, I just pulled that what we're doing out of the air. It could be the mind of phenomena or something like that, the mind of activity. The mind is, thinking all the time. It's making itself angry. It's making itself anxious. It's, has all this these judgments about things, perceiving things, and to strengthen those other pieces of the mind, you just let that do its thing. Just let it do its thing, and when I think this piece can just feel that happening. And naturally, as this knowing piece gets stronger, this piece starts to, the activity does start to get more, become less reactive or less, thought becomes much shorter. But you can't feel any simple thing like this and danger at the same time.
Sorry.
You can't feel even something really basic like the body moving as it's happening. I can intentionally think and think about what I'm saying to you or something, but I can't go off into this daydream, and this long sort of rabbit hole of thought, and feel at the same time.
And can't be aware when we're angry.
Pardon me?
And we cannot be aware when we're angry. When we're aware, the anger crisply crumbles.
So
in the light of awareness, just not really exist.
Yeah, it may be hard. I mean, it's because anger is an emotion. It doesn't disappear immediately. The body has all these hormones in the body. But you can see the foolishness of it. It's just your own story. You're telling yourself to make you angry, and you can stop feeding that anger stops getting fed through that. But it'll when that knowing piece is more developed, things are just very short. There might be a brief kind of instance of frustration, but it disappears immediately. It's like when they drop hot water into a hot cooktop, and just it's gone. So that's what we need to do. We got to heat up our cooktops, so that when the water of anger or grief or whatever or sadness falls on it, it's allowed to fall on it, but it doesn't create a flood, or a puddle on it.
I've also had some experiences recently where I can feel I can kind of watch like this is happening with the mind, when I'm anger or angst or upset, something like that, and it's kind of spinning around. And I found that sometimes it's very hard then not to get in it, and particularly hard not to then bring it to the level of speech, where then it's going to affect other people around me. And it's been like real attention inside. And so I'm kind of wondering, when that happens and I feel caught and can't get out, I'm watching the anger, I can't get out of it. Is it just stop, pause, take a breath? Or what do
what keeps us in the anger is thought. You know, we've got some narrative that's telling us we should be angry because, and I should assert myself, or whatever, and maybe you should assert yourself. It's a anger and self-asserting yourself don't have to be the same, and so, I mean, I think I'm hearing two things in your question. One involves just a simple, is wanting to recognize that, look at your mind when it's getting angry and see there's a thought that's telling you why she's angry. And that's just something your own mind manufactured. There's nothing inherently true about it, whatever story your mind is telling you, And, but then there's the piece, I think what I thought you were talking to, maybe you are, is that even though we see, I know how to step out of the anger, I didn't think I really want to. Right? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Or I'm asking you in general.
Well, as you're saying that, I think maybe there's a part of me that doesn't want to. Maybe.
Yeah, I should be angry. Why should I be?
So how do we know then where to draw? Where should I be angry?
Well, with more practice, you just get more confident in that. I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way, but right and wrong in a certain sense doesn't matter that much. And that doesn't, I'm afraid to cringe a little bit to say that because I don't want to imply that it's okay to hurt people, that kind of part of it wrong. But being right or being wrong doesn't really matter that much. It doesn't matter at all. It's a practice that helps to see what really matters is am I devoting my life to do that, or am I devoting my life to what's beyond that, And as we practice, we get more confident in it, and it becomes easier to say, I don't care. It doesn't really matter which right or if I'm right or wrong, or they're right or wrong. It's and it becomes easier to let it go. That's my thoughts on it.
I was thinking that when I see the thoughts starting to spin out, the thoughts are very seductive, and the story, like you were saying, can kind of pull you into feeling that strong feeling, even if you're sort of trying to stay on the outside of it. And what I've been playing with is coming back to the sensations in the body more directly, because those emotions come with all kinds of feelings in the body too, but they don't necessarily have the story attached to them. And so that can sometimes just feeling any part of my body that the awareness kind of can come to, can quiet the thoughts pretty sort of reliably.
Yeah, come back to the body. You can't be aware of the body and be aware of understanding. And the more our practice grows, you recognize that this anger is just about, or the reluctance to let go of it. It's about the idea that this doing mind is right and that doing mind is wrong. And it's just, there's an absurdity to that. And so it becomes easier to let it go.
I think also, shouldn't I be angry? Is that all right? It's just causes and conditions that make this occur. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to hold on to I should be angry. I have been practicing for 15 years. Mahasati, what's wrong with me? Mm-hmm. So there's all these ways that we do not accept our initial response, as we think that is something foreign that we come back to wanting to fix it. We can just accept that this is just human nature, being human nature.
Sure, but so you need to stay in anger?
No, it just is a way of releasing that all the suppression, all the trying to fix it, all the making an I out of it is an accumulation of suffering. And that is actually watering the seed. Whereas just seeing, oh, this is a seed that's been planted, maybe, it may even come from my ancestors, from the original phase before I was born. This is a response, and we don't bring that into our karma by either creating more suffering out of it by pushing it away, suppressing it, saying I'm above anger, I'm wiser than this, and we don't want to do any damage to any other. So but accepting that our very first response as genuine, I think is compassionate and true.
Do you disagree with what you're saying? I'm not clear what you're
No, I think that it's that part of the fixing mind that is taking over when we fight anger. It's like fighting me with me or anger with anger about anger, and so it just proliferates. Instead of seeing this as a natural process that just allows us to say, okay, well, here's my suffering mind. Hello.
Yeah, we don't judge anything. You don't judge the fire started, but you can also use a fire extinguisher.
But I've been always told how bad I am, that I'm angry.
No, yeah, don't do that.
And I'm repeating that to myself.
I think for me, at a very simple level, when I start feeling those emotions, whatever they may be, if I'm just aware of them, which I think is the knowingness that you're referring to, and there's an intellectual component of it where I realize that those are not me, that's just the mind, right? And I can feel it in the body, that's the body. Those are the three kind of components I think you're referring to, right? The body, the mind, and then there's knowingness, which is the awareness. And when the awareness, when you're aware of those, whether it's anger or whatever it is, it doesn't go, it doesn't just disappear, but it does take a lot of the energy out of it, right? Because you don't continue down that path of whatever is causing it because you're aware of it. And you kind of realize that. At least for me, that's not me. Whereas in the past, before this practice, I never understood that. Right? Every emotion, every thought was me. Well, that's me. I'm pissed or I'm anxious, or whatever. And now it's kind of like, well, that's just a phenomenon in the mind, and I'm aware of it now, so it's going to kind of dissipate a bit. And it doesn't go away right away. That definitely helps, right?
Right.
So, and I think that we use a lot of different terminology, and I like the knowingness, but to me, that's just awareness, right? I think it's the same thing, right? Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to go a bit over, but thanks for practicing, for coming together to practice today. Thanks for the Dhamma discussion, and hope to see you again soon. Have a good rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
I have two announcements. One is that we have a Sangha meeting across the parking lot, starting in about 10 minutes. And the other is that we are in a somewhat existential need